Okay, on to lesson 2. NBA Hall of Fame. All right. So in this particular lesson, uh, you're going to be entering data into your spreadsheet, and you're going to notice that sometimes the information that you type into the spreadsheet is too big. It's bigger than the cells, the size of the cells. So you need to know how to kind of format the information in the cells so that it fits neatly. It can be easily seen at a glance. You can just take a look at it and go, you don't have to, nothing's hidden, nothing's typing over something else. Okay, so I'm going to go through the list again. Again, there's a rubric that goes along with this. This rubric is a little more extensive than the rubric for the last lesson, so make sure that before you turn it in, you check with the rubric and that you've done all the steps. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and type in all of this information. Am I asking you to type in all this information? Yes, I am. So it might take you a while to type in all of this information. Again, you can't just copy and paste this information. You literally have to type it. But it is important that you do this because A, it's going to improve your typing skills, and B, it gets you practicing working in a spreadsheet and kind of learning the fundamentals of how that works. So that when you actually do this in the professional world, it doesn't feel so daunting. Okay, so I'm going to pause and go ahead and create my spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm going to create a duplicate of this real quick so that I don't end up writing over the one that you're making. So I'm going to make a copy. I'm going to call it NBA Hall Demo. But you're basically just going to open up the one that's in Google Classroom. You don't have to follow these steps. Okay. Now, I'm looking at the instructions. I've got my spreadsheet, created a new spreadsheet. I'm using the default font and size of the software. Okay. Now, look at step 3. Format the width of column A to 20 and column D to 35. So if we look at this spreadsheet, the one that they're asking us to create, you notice that column A and column D are wider than column B and C. B and C we're going to deal with later. Column A and column D, we're going to actually set those sizes before we type in the information. So, now the thing that is a little confusing here is that in the textbook it's saying format the width of column A to 20 and D to 35. Unfortunately, Google Sheets, when you try to set the width of the columns, this is how you do it. You go with your mouse up between the two columns and you drag until you get these two little arrows, and then you drag them to make the columns wider. Now, what does 20 look like? Well, what 20 is referring to is 20 characters, 20 letters, 20 numbers, whatever. Unfortunately, Google Sheets doesn't tell you how wide this is, which is kind of dumb. But it is what it is. I'm going to show you in another software spreadsheet, and it's good for me to do this because there are obviously various types of software out there. This is Microsoft Excel. This is part of the Office suite. This is a different program from Google Sheets. This is installed on my computer. It is a very expensive program. It's not free. It's what most businesses use. It has a lot more features. Google Sheets is fine, and it's great for what we're doing, and it's great for learning. But Excel is kind of like the professional version of that. It's like the SolidWorks of spreadsheets. All right. So in Excel, if I do the same thing, most of the features are the same. Notice that it is telling me what the width of that column is. So 20 looks something like that, right? That's 20, right? In Google Sheets, when you slide these, it doesn't really tell you what 20 is. So I'm going to just, if you look at the spreadsheet here, the model spreadsheet that you're going to be typing in, notice how wide that is, right? So you're going to kind of approximate that width. It doesn't have to be perfectly 20, but it should be enough to fill all of this information. The whole point is to have the cell wide enough so that the information will fit inside of the cell and it doesn't bleed into the other cell. So this A is supposed to be 20. D, it says, is supposed to be 35. So we're going to go to D. Okay. And again, I can't really, Google Sheets won't tell me what the size is. So I'm going to just kind of mess around a little bit until I get to what looks like the same size. If it's a little bit over or a little bit under, that's fine. Okay. So this is 20. So now all of the column A is 20 and the columns D is 35. So let's go back to our instructions. That is step 3. Step 4, format the height of row 1 to 50. Row 1. Well, row 1 is here, right? And we want this to kind of be spaced out a little bit. So again, Google Sheets doesn't give you a precise number. That 50, by the way, refers to 50 pixels. Pixels, little tiny dots, visual dots, okay? Again, I'll show you what that looks like in Excel real quick so that you can see. In Excel, if I do the same thing, okay, notice that the height, actually it's not pixels, it's points, but I don't want to get into the units. All right, this is, so 50 looks something like that, right? So that's 50 in Excel, and it tells you exactly what 50 is. Again, it doesn't have to be, in the rubric, I'm not looking for a precise 50. I want to look similar to this, okay, within reason. It already looks like A is a little wide compared to this, but I don't know. The font size is different. So as long as the information fits in here and it's approximately these sizes, that's what I'm looking for. All right, so we've got row 1 is 50. It says 5. Format column D to wrap the text within each cell. Column D is here. Now, notice that I'm selecting cells here. I can select the entire column by clicking on the D itself. I can select the entire row by clicking on the number of the row. D. I want to, it says format column D to wrap the text within each cell. All right. That option is actually in the toolbar somewhere, and I don't really see it because my screen is too small. So I can increase the size of the screen and look for it on the toolbar. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is each time you select a column, there's a little arrow here. You can open that up and you can get some options here. You're going to have to open up your spreadsheet, the browser window, so that you can see these, or you can just click on the dots and that'll give you the ones that you can't see, right? The option that we're looking for column D is what's called wrapping the text within each cell. Because if I just start typing, right, notice that all of the letters are all on the same line, and basically I've got now I've got information that's not only in column D, but it's now bleeding over into column E. We don't want that to happen. We want that information when it reaches the end of the cell to what we call wrap down Okay, and what we do is we use this option here. So once again, you can either use the dots and find it that way, or you can resize this so that you can see all of your toolbar. But basically that tool is this icon right here, text wrapping. Okay, I'm going to click on text wrapping. It gives me 3 options. I'm going to choose the second one, which means that it's going to do that. It's going to take the information that came after and put it underneath. Okay, so you want to do that for D. You want to click on column D, click on text wrapping. Now notice I just did the text wrapping for one cell. You want to make sure that you've selected the entire column, text wrapping, wrap. And now everything that's typed in here will automatically wrap. Okay? So format column D to wrap the entire text within each cell. Okay. So we've done step 5. Step 6. Type the data shown in figure 2. This is figure 2. All right. Yes, you're going to have to type all this information. And yes, I am looking for it to be as perfect as you can get it. Okay, maybe later on we'll figure out a way to not have to do that. But for now, I do need you to type this. And I am actually going to type it myself. So I want to pause this and give you a chance to type this in. And then we'll go through the rest of the steps. Okay, now I just want to point out one quick thing. So when you're typing in information, one thing, I've left a few here kind of open to finish. I'm going to be typing in these dates. I just want to show you, I'm typing in these dates 4-9-28. And let's say I make a mistake. Well, that's kind of weird. I typed in 4-9-28, but it turned it into 88 when I typed in 288. So it basically understands what's happening here is the software understands that that's a date and that something happened here and it didn't really understand how to interpret that. So if you do make a mistake, make sure you double check your work. Make sure that it looks like it's this format. Sometimes it'll try to apply some kind of math thinking that it's some kind of formula. So 4-9-28. Okay. Now the way that I did that, after I typed in the information, I actually pressed enter. And when you press enter, it automatically moves it to the cell below. It knows that you're probably filling out some kind of list. So one quick little trick is to, when you're typing in information, 220-63, rather than clicking and using your mouse and everything, you can just press enter and it takes you to the next cell. This is part of data entry, actually. One of the things that if you end up in an office, one of the first intern or like lowliest things you're going to be doing is entering data. And the faster you can do that, the faster you're going to move up and move on to something more important. But even people that are doing really important things have to do data entry. So this is good practice. Okay. All right. So I've got my, I've got this here. Okay. Put my name on it. All right. It's looking basically like figure 2. All right. Now, the thing is, these lessons are a little tricky. This is what you're supposed to type. If you finish and think you're done just because you typed all this in, shame on you. You did not go through the rest of the steps. So, after you have typed everything, save the spreadsheet NBA Hall. That's already done for you. See, I did some of the work for you. Now, but you have to go on to the next step. It says 8, resize columns B and C so that all the data is displayed. Okay? So that all the data is displayed. It may, I think what they were thinking is that, let's say you end up with your columns and you've typed in this information and it's not showing it because the words are longer than the cell. You need to resize the columns. So if that happened to you, what you can do is either drag it like that. Okay. But a quick trick that I use a lot is I will double click, and it will automatically make the column as wide as the widest thing in there, as the widest bit of information. So if in column B I ended up like this really tiny thing here, I just double click it and it opens it up to whatever the widest thing is in the cell. Okay, so that's A. Resize columns B and C. Center the text in cell A1 vertically. Cell A1 is here. Okay, and I want to center that vertically. All right, well, okay, what does that mean? What that means is they want the words NBA Hall of Fame to be in the middle of the cell, not at the bottom. They want it to be in the middle. Okay, that's just a little formatting thing, make it look nicer since it's the title of the spreadsheet. So again, those tools are going to be found in the toolbox. You can either slide it, the window open to do it, or you can use these dots. Okay, and where you're going to find that is right here. A lot of your formatting, how the text looks in your cells, a lot of that information is in this section of the toolbar. So we did text wrapping. Okay, we're going to go to this thing called vertical align. This is how is the text aligned vertically within the cell. Click on it, and we want it to be centered or in the middle. Click on middle. Boom. Pretty cool. We could also do top. Oh, wrong cell. Do top. We'll go middle. All right, cool. And we're just have to do that for that one cell. All right. Carefully proofread your work for accuracy. When you see those words, you should ding, 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 ding in your brain go, ooh, I should go back and take a look at that rubric. Okay. Did I set column A to 20? Did I set column D and wrap the text? Did I do that? Yeah, that looks good. That's 35. That's wrapped. Okay. Did I set row 1 to a height of 50? Yes, I did. It's bigger. Okay. Notice that these row heights were actually automatically determined by the amount of information that was in there, which is kind of cool. They're not even, but you could make them even if you wanted to, and we'll get into that later. Input data correctly into the assigned cells. Resize columns B and C to display all the data. We did that. And then we centered text in cell A1 vertically. All right. So that's my rubric. This is what I'm going to be using to grade you. I take a look at this. This is centered. This all I know is perfect because I did it. If I see little errors like you forgot a dash or like something seems a little out of place, I'm not going to be too hard on you. I know it's a lot of information to type, but like I said, this is training you to also do data entry. And I think it's important that you become more familiar with copying stuff and literally typing it. I know it seems boring to you, but you know what? That's what the job is. And that's, unfortunately, the hardest part of it. The fun part comes when you're really actually doing all the formatting, I think. Anyway, I hope this was useful for you, and see you in the next lesson. Sorry, one other thing. I want to be thorough here. I want to make sure I go through all of the steps, and I didn't do that. So I want to maybe speak to why I didn't do that. So be sure all changes have been saved. You're working in Google Sheets. It saves all your changes, so you don't have to worry about that step. Now this stuff here, I want you, this is going to be in every lesson, set the print area of the spreadsheet, print preview to make sure that the cells print a copy of the spreadsheet. This would work if this course were in the classroom and you were handing me physical printouts of your spreadsheets. That's going to be in every lesson. I want you to ignore those last steps because we're not doing that. When I do see you again, we'll have all these amazing spreadsheets, and maybe we'll take like one lesson and we'll take like 5 different spreadsheets and go through how to do that for the spreadsheets that you've already created. But just skip those last 3 steps if you see them in any of the lessons from now on. I just wanted to make that clear so that you don't think that we're skipping steps. We are, but there's a reason for that. Okay. Again, I hope that you're safe, happy, and well.